how do you change your beliefs, your mindset, and the way that you think? How do you reprogram your mind and your belief systems? Because those are what determine your reality. It's the reason that I can see a homeless person on the street, let's say, for example, and think one thing about him, and then another person can see that same homeless person and think a completely different thing about them. It's why we left and right side of politics can see one issue and think about it completely differently because of our belief systems. Okay, so we can go into our mind and reprogram them. There are different ways to do this, but in this video, I'm only going to focus on one. Now, something you may find very interesting is this first part, which is identifying. How do we identify them? At least I find them very interesting. I find this very interesting because I can identify my own beliefs, the beliefs that I hold. And again, I'm about to explain how to do it. But not only in yourself, you can also analyze other people and identify and see through them and see through what their beliefs are. Okay? It's very interesting when you have this skill and this ability and you can see somebody and say, whoa, that belief is messed up. Or, wow, that's a really good belief. Maybe I want to change myself and adopt that belief because it helps them. Okay. So how do we identify them? The first part is understanding that the only way that we can see beliefs, because obviously we can't just reach into, again, we're not talking about meditation here, but you can't just reach into somebody else's brain, for example, and pick out their beliefs and see them, right? You can't take a lens and look in their mind and see their beliefs. So we see them, the only way to see beliefs is through action, okay? Actions tell beliefs. Every single thing that you do is based on a belief behind that action. Okay? So let's take one example. I'll take one example that I think is, not even I think, I know for a fact because I work with a lot of people on this, is very common, and it is a fear of failure. Okay? Super, extremely common. Fear of failure. What is the belief behind a fear of failure? And how does it manifest, right? So first off, let's start with that, the physical part, which is the part I said where you can actually see it. So somebody that is afraid of failure is not going to take action on a lot of things. They're going to be afraid to take action. Maybe they do take action and then they mess up and then they stop taking action, or they take less action, or they, act in a different way because they're afraid of failing again. So we start to see this hesitation of taking action or moving forward, and it comes from a fear of failure. So what's the belief behind that? The belief is that failure is bad, or that failure is going to hurt them, or that failure is going to make them look bad, which has a belief in itself, which is, I believe that looking bad is important. I believe that looking bad is a bad thing, right? So it can branch off. It can branch off, but we're going to try to stay out of the weeds here. So let's stick to this fear of failure. Failure is bad, right? That's the essential belief behind it. Now, the real question here is that true? Or is it not true? Is failure a bad thing? And what happens if we change that belief, we flip it around and we say, and we go the complete polar opposite to failure is good, right? Is that helpful? Is that good? And is that true? Maybe not always. So how do we play with this? So what we can do after we've identified a belief, it becomes very easy to see it manifest in our life, and we can deliberately take action in the other way, in the other direction, right? So let's say someone is playing a sport, kids playing basketball, right? Takes a shot, misses. Now they don't shoot for the rest of the game because they're afraid of failing. Now let's say we sit the person down, we have a coaching call or something, and we get to this root of, well, let's test out this new belief system that failure is good. And we see this kid in the next game take a shot, miss, and he's shooting all these shots from freaking half court because failure is good, right? And now he's shooting every shot that he can. Well, is that necessarily good? Maybe, maybe not. Is it better, though, than not taking any shots? Yes. Answer is yes. At least my belief is that it's yes, because if you don't shoot, you can't score. If you shoot, you have at least a chance to score, right? That's my belief, and I believe that that serves me well. And I would argue that it would serve you better to believe that way than to believe that it's better than the belief of I better not try at all. Okay. Now this is, again though, like these are the different belief paths that we can have. There's an infinite amount, right? And this is just the one thing that we're talking about here, and I'm trying to stay out of the weeds. So once we've identified that, we put into practice, we run a test of the new program, and then we see the results. Are we shooting more? Yes, we're shooting more. Are we making more? Are we making more shots? Yes. Is it helping the team overall? Yes. Is it helping us win? Yes. Is it getting us what we want? Yes. Okay, so it's good. Now let's say we want to tweak it a little bit. Maybe shooting every single shot from half court isn't good. We want to tweak it a little bit. Maybe failure isn't inherently a bad thing, but it's not always a good thing, right? And so we can kind of calibrate ourselves, right? Where we don't have to go the complete polar opposite all the time, but once we go that other end and we see, okay, this is actually much better than this way, than the old belief that I had, but it's not quite correct. Let me adjust a little bit, right? And we start to learn. We start to learn and we start to tweak that belief, and we tune it up over time. And it's the same thing with any belief. Right? We might not get it quite 100% right the first time. So we can identify them, and then we start to reprogram them. And we can do this with anything. Now, again, it gets very interesting when we see it with other people, and we can identify their beliefs. Now, we can't change other people's beliefs, though. We can only change our beliefs. However, no matter how much we wish that we could change other people, we cannot. We can only have complete control of ourselves, right? But that's a beautiful thing. They have complete control of themselves. We have complete control of ourselves. And you do have complete control of yourself, by the way, which is another belief. But tangents aside, let's say we see somebody acting in a certain way. Let's say somebody is very arrogant or rude. Let's say somebody's super rude. What's the belief behind that? With just that information, oh, he's rude, I'm not quite sure, right? Because there's a lot of different aspects to it. Like, in what way are they being rude? Are they using words? Are they being, very pompous? Are they, who are they acting towards? Are they rude to women? Maybe they have a belief that women are less than them, which is a bad belief, in my opinion. I would argue that that's a bad belief. But it works with anything, okay? And we can see over the long term if it's a good belief or a bad belief, right? Like I already said with the basketball one, we can tell relatively quickly, if it's good or bad. Now, there are some belief systems that seem good in the short term, but they may not be in the long term. Let's say you believe that getting 2 hours of sleep is good for you because it helps you get a lot of work done. Well, it may be good and okay to believe that in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to suffer. You will suffer long term, okay? Let's say somebody, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on YouTube, but we'll just go with it. We'll roll with it. Drugs, right? Let's say somebody wants to take some drugs. There's a belief that they're going to give them a good time, right? That it's going to help them be happy, that it's going to help them fit in, that it's going to help them whatever, and be, self-medicate, and you'll be all good. Now, that belief, is it true maybe in the short term? Maybe. But we can look at other people who have taken this belief and run with it in the long term, and we all know how that turns out, horribly. So we can see that on the surface, it may seem like, to some people, a good belief system, but if we look a long term at other people who have run the experiment long term, we can see that it's actually a terrible belief system, right? So this is how I think about alcohol, which is extremely common. I don't drink at all. Zero. I see no net benefit to it at all. I don't. Like, there's a belief that it may help you have a good time, that it may help you, be loose at a party. It may help you get, have some confidence or whatever it does for you. I don't know. For different people, I guess. But long term, I see no net benefit. And that's my belief behind it. I see absolutely no reason for it, right? And it goes with a lot of different things. Again, we can apply this to every action that we take or don't take, positives and negatives. And we can run this program constantly to find out if the belief systems that we have are good or bad. Dating, fitness, sleep schedules, work, career, family, values, religion, right? Anything you want to analyze, you can now, right? So to recap, because I want you to run this program in your own life, because I want you to be better, right? And if you want, you can click the link down below to see if working together makes sense to help you get where you want to go and build the life that you want and become the person that you want to be. But run the program. Say, okay, here's an action that I have, or here are thoughts that I have. What's the belief behind it? The belief leads to thoughts, thoughts lead to action. So what's the belief behind it? What can I put in place of that? And then run the experiment by acting on it, acting as if that belief is true. And then you see the results of that. And when the results are good or bad, you take note of it and adjust accordingly. All right? I will catch you guys on the next video.